So like I want to do this talk, and basically the thinking behind it is how to give the most important, the most value for the least amount of work. That's what I'm always thinking, like the most efficient. It's not to get every detail. It's like, what is the basic one that you can do? Like working out, right? What's something you do that takes the least amount of time, the most amount of benefits? And I think my once a week, I think it's perfect. So when I come across something that I think is super good, I want to share it with other people, right? So basically a couple, let's see, maybe about less than 2 months ago, I started to watch videos at night when I was going to sleep. I started to watch this guy named Dr. Robert Lustig, and he's up in San Francisco. And he talks about, he's a very unique doctor. It's amazing he still has his license, because he basically pulls the rug out from the whole medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry. But not in some bullshit way, not in some conspiratorial way, in a scientific way. He's like the only guy who gives a shit, basically, about a lot of things. Like now he's getting traction. The people are starting to listen to him. So more and more doctors are saying, yeah, like this guy is onto something. So I don't want to I'm going to put links, in the group chat, and I'll put it below for like other chats of his. So I don't want to repeat them and try to pretend like, you know what I mean? But basically, just I think in a nutshell, it's important to know is that we humans never had diabetes before. Like if you look, like let's say, I might get the exact dates wrong, but let's say 100 years ago, it was just like 0.6% of the under 60 population. And now it's like 20, right? And like fat liver, this is the worst thing is fatty liver. Do you guys know much about that? Anybody know anything about that? It's like you can be thin, right? They call it thin or skinny fat or whatever. It's like, but then you're thinking, well, what is it really? Because the guy is skinny, right? So what is it really? It's the fat around the liver. Okay, so I think 40% of Americans have fatty liver now. Fatty liver is a disease that only existed with alcoholics, hardcore alcoholics over the age of 60 in the past, until like 1950 or something. So until really recently, we never had fatty liver. And then if you look at the world today, right, it's so obvious, you guys. I'm serious. It's incredible. This is incredible. That's why I'm so until the 60s, every doctor was working on infectious diseases. So, you're going to get a bacteria. There's going to be a virus, and infectious disease are going to infect you. And those diseases had drugs that could fix them. Okay, that you could kill the bacteria. You could, you could sanitize. You could do something to fix it. All the diseases that we have now, I don't remember the exact name of the 8. Because they're all very some of them are very medical sounding. But basically, the things that are killing us today, there's 8 problems that we have, and none of them can be cured with medicine because they're all in the cell. There's no medicine that fixes your cells. So if you have, let's say, high blood sugar, right, you can take a pill and it lowers your blood sugar, but it does a lot of other stuff, right? But it doesn't fix why you have high blood sugar. It's so fucking stupid, you guys. It's like major. I want you guys to really take a major red pill on food, like major. Like most people, they're not getting it and they're dying. Like it's not just obesity. It's not actually, I thought until I listened to him that it was obesity. Because I thought, okay, I'm skinny, stay skinny. You don't want to be fat. Fat people have diabetes. They're all fucked up. And you look at the world, like why are people suddenly thinking all these weird things about their different, all this stuff you hear. I don't want to use the words on YouTube, but you know what I mean? Someone thinks there's something else and everybody's like, you could say people are going crazy, right? So why is that? Why are people changing? Because they were the same for a long time, right? So why are people suddenly going? And I really believe the reason is because what we're going to talk about today is because they're poisoned. They're poisoned by sugar, which basically I'm going to give it to Sean to talk about a little bit of the science. So could you do that? Just go into the science as much as you can. And then, I want you to listen to his actual videos, and more than one, because they're like so good. Like, you might not like his personality, but his information is just amazing, and everything will fall into place. Like, when you hear something, you all of a sudden understand all this other stuff, and you're like, oh my God, no wonder that happened, right? It's like, that's how this stuff is. So whether I'm doing a good job explaining it, which I don't think I am, but I'm telling you how urgent I think it is, right? So here, let's get Sean for some of the science.
So the reason that sugar is so bad for you, it's not that people say sugar, obviously your body turns everything into glucose before it eats it, so it's not, sugar is toxic on its own or whatever. But the problem is, and the reason that only alcoholics had diabetes back in the past is because alcohol, the shape of the molecule and the shape of the molecule for fructose are very similar, and they're processed basically identically in your body, right? So fructose goes through, and it's mitigated by your liver in the same way that alcohol is. And so when you eat a bunch of fructose and you drink a bunch of juices and everything, it's like you're an alcoholic. And so you get the same results that an alcoholic would get from that. So the reason there's fructose, the reason people are getting so much fructose is not just because they're drinking a bunch of juice, which they are, but it's also that fructose, like foods are not meant to last for months, but people want foods that last for months. And so to do that, you need things that are stable for a long time. And fructose has a lot better properties. Fructose is pretty cheap. Fructose is more stable at like room temperatures. And so if you used glucose, not only would that be more expensive because you'd have to import it mostly, but it wouldn't be as stable, and you'd get a shorter shelf life. But if you use fructose, then you can bring that in locally from the U.S. because you have tariffs on imports like glucose. But in the U.S., we make a bunch of corn. You could just take corn sweetener, which tastes like crap. You can take that. You can put it through chemical processes that add more fructose to it and make it more palatable. And then that lasts a very long time, and it's subsidized by the government. So you now have this cheap thing that tastes palatable for a long period of time. Just dump that crap in, right? And people eat that, and then they, get results like an alcoholic. So that's the science behind the fructose part, at least.
Right. So there's kind of two parts to it, basically. There's like two important, but there's if you want to go deep into the details, like for the last 20%. You could go into a lot of different things like pollutants and stuff. But really the main thing, there's two problems that are going on right now at the same time. One is that we eat like how many pounds of sugar a year? Does anybody know?
76 or something?
No, it's 100. It's over 100. It's like 200. It's like a huge amount per year that we eat every year, the average person, right? So we eat a lot of sugar. But the other problem is in the 60s, after the war, the guy who invented the K ration or the ration, for the military, he's kind of the guy who was kind of the hero, right? Because that kept soldiers working. So he was kind of the guy, and he wrote a book about people were starting to get sick after the war. And so he wrote a book and said, it's all about oil, saturated fats, right? And so the government here believed it, put it into the thing. The problem was it wasn't true. And there was a guy in the UK who wrote a book about sugar and explained exactly what would happen. And everything that he said would happen in that book. And he died in totally, what do you call it? Obscurity. He was destroyed. Like, he even lost his office at the university. Yeah, and he was a total. Like, he exactly laid out. He was like screaming, like, you are killing yourself. And then the U.S. government was like, well, we know people are getting sick, so which one is it? And we'll take the American guy who did the K ration. We'll believe his theories. But his research is not even well documented. And it actually wasn't even well done. Like, he didn't even follow like the protocol that you're supposed to follow to make proper results, right? And so, but we based all of our food, all the facts, everything we eat is based on that. Everything the government recommends, everything they, and the companies make, right? So it started, we basically, it was so bad because we could have gone the right road and we just picked the wrong road. It's really, but now it's like going back, right? So when you don't, the two problems are this. One is sugar and the other one is fiber. So that guy with the rations, that's when fast food basically started, right? Is when you could make a lot of food And it would last a long time. And the problem is, I always wondered about this because I liked McDonald's growing up. Like, I could eat a couple of Big Macs. I felt good, Like, I wasn't, I don't just take things on. I'm not like, yeah, it's bad to do that. Or, I believe that. I was kind of like, even though I would eat a lot of health food, I thought, you know what? What's fucking wrong with some McDonald's? Like, I wouldn't eat the French fries and I wouldn't eat chocolate shakes, but I would eat the hamburgers and stuff, right? And coffee and stuff. And I thought, this is fine, right? The problem is with the food that we eat, it's all been processed. So they take the fiber out. And the problem with taking the fiber out is that the fiber is when you eat food, right? The gut bacteria, right? It's basically, imagine little animals in your stomach, right? And they got to eat something. What do they eat?
Whatever you take it. Food part of
They eat the fiber. So that what that does is when they eat the fiber, then it protects the lining of the stomach. So the stomach is healthy. So it's designed that way. Like our bodies are designed that way. You eat the fiber, like you eat a carrot instead of a carrot juice. You eat like, anything real food, right? A fish or whatever, and a pumpkin. And there's a lot of fiber. And that fiber is what the gut bacteria eats. If you eat food that's processed, then the bacteria they start eating, they don't eat the food, they eat the lining of the stomach. So that's why everybody has leaky gut now. So leaky gut, and also everybody's always taking probiotics because they don't have a balance in their gut. You shouldn't have to eat probiotics. You should have a good gut. The gut, it doesn't just lose its, you know what I mean? Like people are doing like cleanses and gut. It's like, think about it. Like, why would you have to do that? Your body is like designed to be healthy. Why would you have to keep fixing it? It's because something's fucked up, right? And it doesn't really fix it, as you might guess, right? So when you eat fiber, the bacteria eats the fiber, and then the food is processed through kind of the entire body. But sugar, fructose, is through the liver. That's why there's fatty liver. And that's why alcoholics get inflamed livers, and die of that, is because the liver is processing all this stuff, right? Instead of through the rest of the body, right? It's just forced to do all this work, and then it gets tired, right? And that's why over time you get fucked up, right? So if you can fix two things, you want to eat real food and you want to cut fructose. So I figured it out, and I'm like, okay, there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of explanations, but you know me, I'm like simple. I'm going to do that because I already eat a lot of real food. But I thought, you know what? I do eat some processed foods, like without really thinking about it. Because I kind of thought it wasn't serious. I thought, it's not that serious. I'm doing good 80% of the time. I didn't really realize, like, if you listen to Dr. Lusta, you'll be like, I don't ever want to poison myself. Like, there's no reason to ever. I would never eat cyanide. Like, you know what I mean? I would never drink gasoline. I never drink bleach. Like, I would never do that, right? So when you realize like how bad it is, he'll explain it better, much better, obviously. And you'll be like, just think about it. Just think, do I want to, hell no, right? So I started to cut out processed foods. And it's funny, what is processed foods? He explains what is processed foods, because you probably don't even know. An apple's not processed. But there's so much food, it's so complicated. Like basically bread is processed. It's not a whole grain. The only way you can get a whole grain, there is no whole grain bread. The only way is if you eat the wheat plant, right? That's the only way you get a whole grain. Everything else is processed, right? They're grinded up into flour, and then it loses its fiber, right? So I said, okay, fuck it. I'm going to quit sugar. And this is like 6 weeks ago. And I was at Sean's house, and I was eating ice cream, and I had like a second helping. And I was just like, I just didn't feel good about it. I was just like, fuck. Because I periodically in my life, like I'd start eating a lot of ice cream at certain points. And then I would eat less at other points. And I would still I still looked pretty good. But like my brother who doesn't eat ice cream all the time, I would look at his face and it was like more healthy. Like when you take a picture, like his eyes would pop out and he just looked different, And I thought it was, maybe we're different, this and that. It's just he was not eating really a lot of sugar, right? And I was, right? So I went back and looked at my pictures, right? And I quit sugar 6 weeks ago. And I don't eat ketchup because ketchup is full of sugar. You got to listen to his videos because he'll like lay out the way things really are about what's in what, right? And like 70, 80% of the stuff in the supermarket has sugar, which is totally insane. You should not be eating that. It's poison. You should not be eating bread with sugar and all this bullshit. And so I quit. And I had a hard time quitting, man. It was fucking hard. I think it was the hardest thing I ever quit. Every night I was jonesing for sugar. I was jonesing. But I was like, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Now it's been 6 weeks. I've been eating probably more than usual because I'm hungry. And also it's a little bit hard to quit. And also I deliberately didn't change how much I eat because I didn't want to skew my results, right? I just said, I'm going to eat everything I want. I'll just eat. Like yesterday, I think I had like 8 or 10 burgers, right? Like I eat a lot, I eat, and I do. And I didn't change that, right? So, but I did take the sugar out and also anything with sugar, I quit. So then like 3 weeks went by and I got up in the morning. I remember I looked, there was like a mirror right there. And I was like, I just looked over there and I thought, I haven't seen that guy in a while. I was like, I have not seen that guy in a while. I was like, something about it was, my face was like a little bit different, and I was like, oh, this shit's working, and then now it's been 6 weeks, and I went from a 34-inch waist back down to a 32, which is my regular, that's like my size, right? That's my body bone size, right? 32. And in 6 weeks, I didn't do any extra exercise, nothing, just everything I do. You guys see me walking, I always walk. It's nothing changed, yeah. And I lost 2 inches on my waist, and I feel better. I threw on another 50 pounds on the deadlift and the squat the other day. I just like threw another 50 pounds on, and I just felt stronger, and it was easy. I was like, wow, this is easy. Every time you go in, it's different. So we'll go in later this week, and then we'll see how it feels. But I'm stronger, and I look at my face, I'm younger. My waist, how girls gain like 10 pounds, they don't look as good, right? It's true, right? Just 10 pounds. We're the same way. We're the same way, right? Yeah. So you don't want to gain those 10 pounds. And the sugar is what's doing it. It's the sugar. One, because it poisons your, what are they called? The mitochondria. It's your mitochondria, the energy factories. They don't work because they're being poisoned. So that's why everybody's fucked up. And it leads to, and I started to watch his later videos, and he was starting to say what I was saying in the beginning. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's why guys think they're girls and everybody thinks this crazy shit. And like everybody's is because, and they're just losing their minds, right? People are losing their minds, right? They're being poisoned. You can see them. They're unhealthy. And this is the most dangerous country in the world to eat. The whole country is like, it's designed to fuck you over food-wise. Because it's so hard to eat good food. Because where would we go for dinner for healthy food tonight? Like literally, where could we have gone without processed foods and sugar? Like there was nothing. There wasn't. We had Trader Joe's for lunch, and that was good. What we got was pretty good, on the scale of eating out. But the Chinese restaurant, hell no. The pizza, hell no. What was the other choices we had? McDonald's was one of them. Showed up in Yelp, yeah. It's like there's nothing here. So you do have to be disciplined. But I think red pill guys can do this. I think if we quit sugar, I'm telling you, all you guys are going to get better looking. And you'll start fitting your clothes from high school. I swear to God. And you'll fucking just feel better. You'll sleep better. And you'll be like, I can't believe it's this easy. Like you're fighting against a demon that you don't know. That's what I feel like. That's what I felt like all those years. Because I knew I was trying so hard to, and I didn't realize that I was doing something to destroy it all, which was sugar, As soon as I quit, it was just like, I could feel, I was like, it all fell into place. I'm like, of course, it was like, the dam is just, I'm just plugging the holes, right? You know what I mean? And they're just popping and popping. And I did good. I mean, more better than most people, right? But it was like I was still fighting this battle every day. I was fighting this battle to hold it back. As soon as you quit sugar, there's no more battle. It's totally gone. You're not fighting any battle. You just go back to your regular weight. You feel good. You eat fiber and you don't eat sugar. Like it'll just, and it's so funny because as we do all these things, right, we're becoming more and more attractive guys. At the same time as we don't want to get married. You know what I mean? And we're making more money and doing better. All the things that we would do, you know, supposedly for girls, we're doing for ourselves, right? And that's like so much better way to do it too. Like it'd be so funny if MGTOW guys end up like being ripped, like ripped and good looking and making good money. Seriously, over time, that will be fucking hilarious. Because the other people, they can't handle it. Like they're brainwashed about everything. They trust everything. And then the pharmaceutical industry comes in, you know, as soon as you have these 8 problems that can't be fixed with food. The only way you can fix the 8 problems, but it's only through food. It's not through there's no drug you can take to fix the mitochondria, right? To fix the liver, there's nothing you can do. To fix the lining of the stomach, there's nothing you can do, right? But the food is the magic. It can do everything. And it's not even expensive. It doesn't cost any more money. Like you don't have to spend any more money on food. Probably less for money. Because you don't have to eat out that much. You know, because it's hard to eat out and get the fiber, right? Or at least I found it to be hard. Hey, Bear. This is our mascot. Putting his little message for the group there. Yep. So I really don't feel like I'm doing a good job, but I want to put the links into his videos, and I really want, I beg of you to listen to these and just think about it, because I like the fact that everybody's attacking us, right? Society, right? You know, the more if they really knew what we were talking about doing, they'd be attacking us more, right? But the fact is, we're gonna beat them. You know, all those fat fucks, right? You kick their asses, right? You can lie to everybody, but you can't lie to your body. Your body just doesn't lie. You know, all those people that they were talking like they were like large and in charge and this and that, and then they died of COVID, right? It's because the disease does not care. You can argue, you can deliberately not see something, but evolution just doesn't care. It's just ruthless. You know, and I think the reason why I do these things is because I know I can't rely on anybody else. I just got myself, right? And to keep me alive, to fight, to protect myself, to live long enough to do the things I want to do. Like I don't have anybody else to do it for me. That's why you need your body so much, because it's going to carry you, you know, to do the things that you need to do. Other people, they you know, they can kind of like lay around the house with their wife or whatever, you know. For single guys, you got to, especially men, right? We got to go out and do it, right? We got to go make it happen. So you got to do the smart things you can do, especially the easy, cheap, like really powerful, smart things. You should do all of them because you can think all you want about the best ideas. But if you're poisoning your mitochondria, like, and your energy factories and your liver, and you have fatty liver, which probably somebody does here in this room. I'm sure somebody here has fatty liver, because 40%. So there's a few people here with fat, and it's not even about being fat. It's like that is like the more you learn about that, you will be alarmed. That's what's scary. Nobody's alarmed because it's all this. I mean, it's kind of like a conspiracy because there's so much money in it. So like as soon as Dr. Lustig and his partners start to get to the truth of it, the food companies, they sponsor all the research, most of the research. And like, you know, the medical, you know, medical schools are expensive, right? Well, guess what? When you go to medical school, you only pay 40% of your cost. I think it's 20 or 40. Who pays the other 60?
The food industry?
Pharmaceuticals. They pay 60% of the doctor's education, and they're investing in them backing them up. And the reason why they don't want you to change your food is because then you're going to need the drugs. Right? You eat the shitty food, you feel terrible, you can't do stuff, you're going to have 8 major unfixable problems. But you can fix the symptoms, right? Temporarily, a little bit, right? And they got the pill right there for you. So doctors in medical school, only 20%, 27% of medical schools even teach nutrition to doctors. They literally don't know anything. Go look at your doctor's body. You know, just ask him how old he is. They're like, do they know anything? And then they don't get taught anything. They're learning. It's like he explains it really well, but it's pretty scary actually. The way he explains the way the medical industry works. You know, I'm not like conspiracy guy. It's pretty scary because what happens is when a lot of people are lined up, their like needs and desires are being fulfilled by this, and then everybody's fulfilled. Everybody gets in line, right? So the doctors get most of their education paid for by the pharmaceutical companies, and the TV shows get most of their money from food advertisements, and the government gets their recommendations from the research in the nutrition industry. Guess who pays for that? The sugar industry, the sugar lobby. He explains what they did to start this off, and it is alarming. I don't want to tell his stories. You just got to listen to it. You'll be like, no way. He names the exact papers that changed everything. Like when policy changed. It was based on a paper that was totally funded by the sugar industry. So they're just funding research, which becomes common knowledge, which goes to the government, which is recommendations for us, right? And then the doctors are not being educated on on nutrition, right? And then they're being subsidized by people who basically drug dealers, right? Who fix those 8 problems. Nobody has any desire to change. And I don't think they should. Burn the whole fucking place down. I don't care. I just say for you guys, you know, is kick ass and like have a good life, right? Do the right things and like no matter how hard the social pressure is, you can take it, right? You know, everybody does something. Once I really understand something, it doesn't bother me when people say it all. Because I'm like, I know why I'm doing it, right? I know why I'm doing something, right? Like when I quit drinking or whatever, like people would, you know, it didn't bother me because I'm like, I really knew for myself, not for other people. I'm not saying that. Everybody has to come up to their own conclusions on that one. But it is all sugar. So it's something to consider. It is like, have you ever made beer? Anybody made beer? You know, you guys haven't made? No way. If you get we made beer. We got a Sparklets bottle, right? And you put like that much sugar to make beer. And it doesn't taste sweet. It's like really bitter German beer we made in college. Yeah, it's really bitter, like super strong. High alcohol content, bitter. And it was like that much sugar. Like I don't even know. I can't remember how many bags we poured in there.
Well,
but
it was fermented, right?
It was like bags. It's all sugar though. It's
But does the sugar get eaten by the bacteria?
No, it's all sugar. That's why they have fatty liver. Yeah, and that's why when alcoholics quit drinking, in AA they always say, give them M&Ms, give them something so they won't drink. You know, they always put M&Ms in a bowl so that you know you just do that and then you don't want to drink. It's because you're just drinking sugar. So the things you can do to avoid sugar is the number one thing is like I think the easiest way to get a lot of sugar is juice. And most people drink their sugar, so that's the number one. You think like don't drink juices. That's just all sugar. And oh, yeah, there's kids now that are 3 years old that are needing liver transplants. 3 years old. 3 years old. And they're needing liver transplants because they're drinking a lot of juice. Like our generations are way different than the kids now. They're getting sugar like all the time, mainline sugar. So guess what happens to the boys? They have behavioral problems, right? And then they get drugged from when they're very young boys. and then you start taking drugs when you're young every single day that you need to, you're just like a zombie for your whole life. It's super scary. But it started from sugar. It all starts, they drank the sugar. It's crazy, 3-year-olds needing liver transplants. That's never happened before. I mean, 3 years, they're just little fucking cruisers, rugrats were jumping around, right? But they're not. And if you listen to what I liked about this guy was he's really knowledgeable. That's the main thing. Is like, because I thought it was obesity. I was sure, I was biased. I thought, like fat people, that was the problem. But he said, no, it's actually, it's not that clear because you can be fairly healthy metabolically and also obese. So it's not about being ripped or looking good. It's the sugar. It's the fucking sugar. That's what it is. And even if you don't look like it, that's not the thing. Because there are healthy, it's not that high percentage, like 20 or 30%, but people that are obese that are metabolically healthy, just like a skinny person. Now, of course, they have other problems because they extra weight and stuff, but like the main 8 things I'm talking about. And basically, sugar, Alzheimer's, cancer, like all the things that we're dying from. Heart disease. Yep. It's all connected to the things that sugar destroys in your body. So if you don't want to have Alzheimer's, because I was convinced, as long as I look good, I'm doing pretty good. Because it's a simple measure. And I thought it was a good measure at the time. Because I thought, if you're a beautiful woman that has symmetry, and she has symmetry in her body, in her organs, and that's a healthy thing, and we look for symmetry because it's a sign of health. Whereas like a gene, malfunction or whatever looks weird, right? So I thought, this would be, it can see on your body, but this, you can't see it. Now you can see, you might want to change your body, but as far as what I'm talking about, like the sugar, it's a different thing. Now the byproduct is, for me, for sure, is that the weight just disappeared, right? But it's not about that. It's not about like the things you heard before. This is like inside your energy factories, right? So what was I going to say? Other things. So yeah, how to avoid it? Let's see. So I just started doing, it's kind of honey, sugar, brown sugar. It's basically the same. The only one that's a little bit different is molasses. Molasses is glucose. It's not fructose, but it's not very sweet. Right. So it's not very good actually to use in tea or whatever. And a lot of the artificial sweeteners. I quit. I forgot what it was he said in the videos, but I was actually terrified, and I quit them immediately after because I like Diet Coke. Everybody that comes to a few summits, I'll be guzzling Diet Coke. I like it, but after I read that, it's one of the things is that when you eat artificial, I forgot, maybe all of them or the main ones, it makes you eat more afterwards. Right. And you want to eat sugar. It's like it causes, because you're fucking with your body, right?
Well, the reason for that is that when you're queuing up your body, so artificial sweeteners, you might not think so because you're eating it, but your body can tell that artificial sweetener is 600 times sweeter than regular food. And so your body thinks that, oh no, you bring it close to you, you can even taste it in the air as something with the artificial sweetener that you open a little powder, you can taste it. And your body goes, oh no, so much sugar is coming to me. And they're like, oh, I'm going to die. What am I going to do? And they're like, all right, let's go ahead and start creating the insulin and storing everything. Insulin. And so all
talk about insulin.
So all the food in so insulin, basically sugar is toxic. Everything is toxic to your body at some level. And because you're constantly eating and your body is constantly converting things to glucose, there's a chance you could die. And so your body goes, all right, well, if there's too much sugar, we'll trigger insulin. That will cause my body to start storing all that sugar as fat and just in my muscles. And then I'll be normal. And that'll be like a regulating cycle of I eat, I start to get too much, and the insulin brings it back down. And when it's too low, then you'll get rid of all that insulin. You'll eat more, and you'll get hungry, and do the cycle. So your body thinks the sugar's coming in, a lot of sugar. It knows you're going to die, And so it goes, okay, everything, store everything now. And so it pumps a whole bunch of insulin into your body. And so you, who have eaten a normal amount of stuff, when you eat this sucralose or whatever, aspartame, whatever artificial sugar, your body stores everything into your muscles and into your fat. And so now your body doesn't have anything to eat. And so you're like, man, I'm hungry. You know what I mean? All the food that I'm eating, as I'm eating it, it's being stored as fat and stored away into different glucose stores. I got to keep eating. You know what I mean? Because your body is responding to something that wasn't there. And so by you fucking with it initially, now you have to eat a lot more to compensate for that insulin. And on top of that, as you do that, your body goes, at first time, your body freaks out and goes, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then, after like the 10th time, it's like, I'm not going to die. This is bullshit. I'm not going to release as much insulin. This is stressful. I'm just going to release less. And so you're decreasing your insulin response over time. And your body goes, I'm got a bunch of sugar, whatever. And as your insulin response starts to dumb down, you get insulin resistant, and that's how you get diabetes. That's when you get you lose the ability to regulate sugar properly. Because when you eat a normal amount of sugar, your body goes, this is nothing. We don't need to do anything. And then you have high blood sugar, and your body doesn't think anything's wrong. Or if it does release the insulin, it's like, insulin, whatever, we'll be fine. So.
Right. So I forgot about that. The insulin, our insulin levels compared to like 1950 are crazy. I don't remember the numbers. Do you remember the numbers? Yeah, our insulin levels are so high, and when you fuck with this stuff like insulin and your mitochondria, like you're fucking with some very basic parts of your body, and you pay basically. That's the thing. Basically to know is that you don't want to be messing with that stuff. Certain things you don't want to mess with. Just let them go. Let them do their thing. They just naturally will do it well. But if you start messing with them, it's like, then it's just like a fucking mess, right? And you can't fix it, right? So it's like people's insulin levels are so high right now. It's crazy. Just and they don't even know. Like there's a bunch of documentaries about sugar that people are starting to catch on. And they're kind of interesting. Like, I like Lustig's videos the best, but one of them was interesting because the guy was like from New Zealand. He's pretty healthy, and he's like, I don't think I think I'm fine. And they checked him, and they did the deep check, right? All the, monitored his glucose, for like a week, and they said you're pre-diabetic, and he's like, I don't eat anything. I never eat crappy food, and then they followed him around, and then they went through what he was eating and everything, and it was like scary. Like, it's like, even if you want to fix this one, you can't do it without education. There's so much to learn, to improve, to fix. It's scary, actually. It's almost like the enemy is out there. You know what I mean? Like, and then we got the enemy out there with like the family courts and all that, and then poisoning our bodies. Like, it's like one by one. You just got to fucking figure it out on your own. Just ninja through the thing, and just live a good life, like some guy would have in the 1800s. That's what I want to do. I just want to live like some guy did in the 1800s. Just strong, healthy, not having any of these modern problems. It's like, fuck this shit. My cousin has diabetes type 1. And so he has to take insulin 3 times a day. And he passes out sometimes. And he's a really nice guy. But it's scary when you see insulin, when it spikes and goes down. It's like, and we're right now, our insulin's, compared to your ancestors, your insulin's fucking through the roof. It's probably like 5 times what your ancestors' insulin was. So we're like battling through all this bullshit. We battle enough with other stuff, right? It's like, don't battle your body. Your body's like the thing, the tool, right? It's the fucking thing that has to work. So I'm open to more ideas, and I want to go deeper. But I do want to caution that I don't want to waste that much time of my life on any of these problems. I just want to get the main ones, just knock them out. Just knock them out. Whatever it is I'm doing wrong, whatever it is I'm missing, whatever that I could improve, I want to just get the one that very small amount of time, 60% of the problem gone, right? And if you can do that in your life, add those up, and you're just kicking everybody's ass, right? Like, totally, Because people like they'll look at you and they'll think, oh, he must do this, and he must spend tons of money on food. He must work out all the time. It's like you can do it so easily, right? It's like, and, you know, people don't believe it, you know, but you have to have discipline. And this is one that you have to have discipline, like sugar. It's a serious one. But I recommend don't change anything until, like, do your research, think about it, you know, listen to a few videos, go to other guys, other channels, like, think about it, like, take your time. And then when you make a decision, follow through. Like, don't be like, do it, you know, and then you don't do it. Because that kills your self-esteem. Because you're always starting something, stopping, you know, and everybody gets all fired up, you know, like, and then that's the problem. Is really when I make a decision, I think about it, and then, like, my mom knows. Because she'll try to change me, and she's like, no, he never changes. Like, once he decides, he's never going to change. Like, when I've decided something, it's like stone cold rock. There's nothing going to change, right? And so, but the way you do that is by being slow to change. You know, I don't jump on every diet. Like, I don't do diets. I just kind of one by one, I'll just kind of add things to my, you know, improve my system, right? And I think the sugar and the awareness of the processed food and sugar, like, I also had a lot of processed foods I ate. I didn't really realize it. Like that protein powder, like that kind of shit's terrible. It's just,
yeah. I was reading the back of it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you don't even think about it because you think, well, it's healthy, right? Health food store, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even in the health food store. That's a scary thing. It's like you can't trust any of these fucking places. You have to be educated and trust yourself, you know, and your friends, you know. But I feel like there's more to say, but I don't know what it is.
The process part.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that they're not really sure. They'll think they know what a processed food is, but what a processed food is just a food that's been transformed in a way that wouldn't have been by your ancestors. Food is very difficult for your body to digest. It's very stressful. Even a diet back then would have kind of, food is just very oxidative. It just kind of wreaks havoc on you eating. And so your body slowly adapts to be able to eat certain things. And so like cooked food is processed, but your body's been eating cooked food for so long, like at least 50 or 60,000 years. So it's pretty much adapted to that. But things like taking an apple and putting it in a blender, that's highly processed. You know what I mean? An apple has insoluble fiber in it, and your body needs that. And when you grind it up, now all the fiber is soluble. And so when you go to eat it, the fiber is not being trapped in like a mesh in your colon or in your intestine. And so, you think you're getting fiber. Oh, I ate the whole apple. Apples aren't processed. Who cares if I, ninja blendered it up? Shouldn't change, right? But that's processing it. Right. And that's like those whole grains, they pull the husk off. That's processing. You grind it up into a powder. That's more processing because your body isn't used to eating that in a powder. Like your body, it's very difficult for it to take something that's been transformed like that. They're not the same thing. It's used to eating this type of thing. About this much fiber, about this much whatever, about this much sugar, and that's why your body creates a certain amount of insulin. When you change your diet very quickly, within like a generation, then your body's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to develop an ability to handle more sugar this time, and that's gonna take a long time. That's gonna take like thousands of years.
It's 40,000 years for
40,000
for an evolutionary change to take hold. It's 40,000 years, yeah. So I think that's important too. I was just thinking as you're saying, people will hear this that we should eat like our ancestors, and they'll think, oh, that's like those guys that talk about the past, who want to go back to the old ways. And I can understand how you'd think that. Like I would think that, but it's not that. What it is this. Look at how life evolves. Some microbes, they live in on different. They eat different things, right? There's different like different planets have different atmospheres, right? And different the life evolves to survive on what is around it, right? And then that's all. So it might be. an air made out of some kind of, what would be the sulfuric acid or whatever.
Yeah, like those little worms on the seafloor that
Yeah.
breathe the sulfuric acid. They don't have to.
I thought there was,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they breathe basically toilet junk, and they're fine because they've adapted to it. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is our bodies are like, well, obviously living things who've grown, and we are used to, or our body system is all very complex, designed to take the things in that we took in before. So in another, let's say, million years or something, maybe people would be evolved to drink just juices. It's not like it's not spiritual. In other words, it's not like the apples are better. It's just that our bodies they adapt slowly. It takes 40,000 years for just one change, right? So we're in a time and space where, in our time, a few hundred years ago, they only ate nuts and stuff like that. But really, truly, in a few, in 100 generations, or whatever it is, at a certain period of time, it won't be the same. They'll want to eat whatever the generations before them ate, and whatever that was that we adopted to find nutrition in, right? And so it's not like go back to the past. It's just, unfortunately, I would love to eat like space food or something, or, I like technology, but unfortunately with food is our bodies are just old school, right? They're just old school. And it's the same with our mating mind with women. Why do we enjoy ejaculating? It's because there wasn't enough babies unless there was a great feeling of happiness or joy when you made another baby. Otherwise, people didn't make enough babies. So there was always dying out population, right? So then the body evolved to find pleasure in that. It was just so that there'd be enough babies. It's not like sex automatically has pleasure. It's just that it was a mechanism to help us to continue as a species, right? So we just see a snapshot in time and we think, oh yeah, I know what it's all about. But actually we evolved, the body figured out a way, to do it, right? And the people that had that gene malfunction, or what is that called? Genetic, I can't think of it. Mutation. They had that mutation, then they had a little advantage, right? They had some kind of, small advantage. So birds got their wings. They didn't have wings, right? And then they fell out of trees. They climbed trees. And then some of the birds had some kind of like ridge on their, just small ridge on the side. And then they would fall out. And then even if it's a very small percentage, they would get a little bit less injured than the ones that were smooth bodies. So then those ones with the little ridge would live long enough to have babies. And then those babies would, go in the trees to get nuts and stuff, and they would fall out. And then the ones that had just a little bit bigger ridge they would get bigger, and then eventually it becomes a wing. It like, that's how evolution works. But it's like so fucking slow. And it's totally illogical. It's just, there's no logic to it. It's a terrible game, actually, evolution. Because you have to go through a million bad things to find one good thing, it's like very inefficient, But anyway, we're living in this world, we're human beings, right? So we have to just kind of respect what our bodies are capable of. Our minds can change pretty fast. We humans, we can change our minds and our technology, but your body's it's totally different. And so is your mating, right? Your mating, why you do things you do as far as sex, right? So when you understand those things, it's easier to succeed in your life, right? Because you know how your body works, and you want to change it. Maybe someday we will be able to switch things out. Like there might be where you could grow another liver using a stem cell with a new change, so you wouldn't have to adapt. You could just like actually change it and put it back in, and you wouldn't need to take any drugs for a foreign organ. So we might be able to change faster in the future, but right now we can't yet. But we just have to kind of. So like, I think we should kind of make a list of things with fiber or things without fiber. Okay, this is what I want to do next. I want to go to a supermarket and just go through the whole fucking thing in a video and just say, this is this is that, this is that. Just as boring as, the way I learned Chinese, I had this girl go into the supermarket. She went to every fucking thing. It ordered 20,000 things in the supermarket. And she talked about each one. She just pointed at it, talked about it, pointed at it, talked about it. And then I just listened to it over and over, and I knew everything in the supermarket, right? So I want to do kind of the same thing with food. I want to do the same thing with food where we can kind of just like pretty easily learn, and then you'll start to get the patterns. Because right now you're not going to spot them. Like, you're not yet. And for me, I want to improve I want to get it where it's just natural. It's just like, not this, not this, not this. Okay, not this, not this. And just keep adding. So basically, I want this to kind of be the beginning. Well, we've done the health stuff now for a couple of years, like cooking a little food. But this is a big one, addition. This is a big one. So if we just start adding kind of our own body of knowledge about health, we're going to kick the doctors' asses. They're not even trained in nutrition. And they're not even trying because they're paid off not to. It needs to be somebody outside the medical community that's going to do this. It really does. They're paid off. The doctors are not going to do anything. The government, they just follow the doctors. And the doctors paid by the pharmacy companies. So none of them can be trusted on this one. So we got to do our own research and then just keep building a better database of knowledge, right? And I think it's a super, because again, man, you got yourself, man. That's what you got. That's it. Everybody else tries to lull you to sleep. You're good, man. It's like I say, no, man. Even if you look great, you very likely have fatty liver. And that's once you learn about it, it's fucking evil, right? So it's like, no, man. Fuck all this complacency, These people are complacent losers, I'm not into that. Yeah, let's push forward, that's my idea. All right. Anything else, anybody?
So that's a question. There's really that big a difference between mastication of an apple and liquefaction of it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's just crazy to me.
Well, no, there's more than what he said, because I've known for a long time that you should make juices, because when you get an apple, as soon as you see it, you're starting the process of processing it, like the Pavlov dog, right? You're seeing the apple, then you take the apple, and then you bite. When you bite, then the digestive juices already start to go into your mouth for the very minor. It's like the beginning of digestion comes up into your mouth, and then the chewing. It when you chew, it sends the message to prepare the stomach for everything, right? So and this is just with an apple. With apple juice from the store, that's a totally different. It's way worse. This is just if you do it yourself with an apple, right there, and no one adds anything.
Just blend it.
Yeah, like celery and everything. So for one, a little bit unrelated, but your teeth muscles, when you chew, those are the muscles that make you look masculine. So a lot of people don't chew anymore. They just eat soft food. I want to chew. I want to eat celery, nuts. It's key to keep your face masculine, the muscles in your face, just like you work out. You want to work out. So in the morning I wake up and I'll freeze cashews or almonds, and I'll bite them with the front of my teeth every morning. I freeze them because then it's just the right temp. For my teeth. My teeth are really good. So they can be pretty hard. And then what it does is that the blood rushes to my gums. And then an old man taught me this when I was young. He said, you don't want to lose your teeth? He says, I'll tell you how to do it. He goes, everybody eats soft food. He told me explain. He told me everything. And I listened to him. I was like, oh my God. I looked around, everybody's got dentures and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that. So I followed him, and now I have. And he was right. He was totally fucking right. So I started eating you get a cabbage, Don't cut it up too much. Just feel it go from your tooth up and massage your gum. That's what it does. It massages. When you eat cabbage with all those different layers. So you're just and then that starts the process. And then on top of that, so when you drink a juice, your body has no idea anything's coming. Your body doesn't know what a glass looks like. So you're just like throwing this stuff with it, no fiber into your gut. It's not preparing. It's not ready. And so naturally that has a huge process because the digestion process is super, super important. That's why when you get older, it's harder to be healthy is because your body can't absorb the things as easily. Even if you eat the same things, you can't absorb them, and your skin can't absorb the sunlight to get vitamin D as easily. So it gets harder to be healthy because your body can't take it in, even if you try to put it in. So a lot of times putting things in your body doesn't get them in there. It's like you're trying to put them in, but it's a subtle game you need to play to get your body to take something in properly. Yeah, and you have to respect if you want to get it to work right, you got to respect the processes that are there. And then of course with the fiber, yeah, once you've ground it up, yeah. It's there's no, yeah. And that's what the factories are all doing with everything. Yeah. They're just bzz, bzz. Wow. Yeah, what anybody?
Just about nutrition in general.
Yeah.
I have some questions about your thoughts on like Roundup, glyphosate, Monsanto, and all of that, and pesticides.
Yeah.
So like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I always try to think of efficiency, right? Of course they're not good. Of course. There's a video you can watch on YouTube, and it's the Monsanto guy. Did you see it? Yeah. Okay. It's classic. So what happened in the video?
It was a doodle where they doodled all of the leaching in the ground and all of that.
Oh no! There's another one. Okay, let me tell you this. There's a hilarious one. Hilarious. They got the Monsanto guy on TV, and he said apparently he was saying the same thing in all the interviews. So he said, "Look, Roundup is so healthy, you can drink it." And so the guy said, "Oh, I heard you say that, so I prepared a glass for you of Roundup," and he puts it on there, and he said, "No problem. Just go ahead and drink that. We have plenty more, And he goes, he's like, you can watch it, yeah. He's like, I don't really, and like he would not fucking drink it, even though he was on TV, in a time when TV was everything, and like, cause he knew a glass of Roundup is gonna fucking fuck him up, right? And he'd rather lose his job than fuck his insides up. Like that's how, that was the most hilarious thing. Because it's just like you can drink it. That's a good idea for you. So the thing is no, it's not good for you. It is very. I just give you my thoughts. I've thought about it a lot.
It's designed to kill stuff.
It's designed to kill stuff. Oh, okay. So if you've ever lived in an apartment building, have you ever lived in an apartment building? Because I always lived in low income buildings. They have a lot of Roundup in those buildings. So you already ingested a ton of it. So even if you eat healthy food, you're going to get it other ways. Like when you're really rich, you can pay somebody to take out every fucking weed, right? You can have people just all the time taking weeds out. But most people can't afford that. Bill Gates could have a garden with no Roundup. Or not Bill Gates. I mean, you don't have to be Bill Gates. I don't want to exaggerate. But I mean, basically, I did landscaping with Brent. And I'm telling you, like, nobody can afford it that we met. To really do it without Roundup, it's like you need Roundup for a lot of things. So people end up using Roundup in their gardens. And even gardeners, they put Roundup often into an organic bottle. And they'll say organic on it. And they'll go around spraying. So when you see people spraying organic bottles, just remember this. Yeah. It's like, because everybody freaks out about it. It's one of these things that nobody knows that much about, but they know it's not good. And they want to tell the guy to do it, but they don't want to pay him, So everybody's full of shit on this one, basically. Because it costs a lot of money to grow food without that stuff. So I kind of made the decision when I was younger, is I'm just going to clean things as much as I can. Like, so for example, I'll take a tomato and I'll use warm water and I'll use soap, just like I'm washing my hands. And I'll wash the tomato with soap and water. Yeah. And I'll, carefully not put my finger through it. I'll wash it. So most things I'll wash with soap and water. And that takes off. You can feel it. It changes the texture of the fruit. And then it was when you know you got it off. It changes it. Now, of course, it does absorb into the skin too, depending on the type of thing. Just use your logic. Okay, so sweet potatoes are underground. So you can't spray those. Because how would you spray them? Pretty hard. Yeah, so don't worry about sweet potatoes, right? Watermelons, they got a super thick rind. So if you spray on them, unless you eat the rind, you're not going to get, the green part. You're not going to get most of the pesticide. And then strawberries, they're very thin and they're very sweet and they're on the ground. So bugs are on the ground and bugs can dig through very thin things, right? And they love sweet things. So strawberries, they put a lot of pesticides on so when you look at something, just think, how much pesticide would they have to put on this? So like pumpkin, they don't have to put a lot of pesticides. Plus it's got a thick rind. So if you are going to eat organic and you're not rich, you have to use your brain and make little compromises. But I think in the end, you're basically on the right track. Just, don't use it on your stuff. And then choose things, if I buy, like for example, if I buy raspberries, I'll buy organic, usually, if I buy fresh. But then I'm hypocrite because when I buy frozen, I buy Costco mixed berries. But if I buy fresh, I tend to get organic because I know they're so thin, they're so sweet. And you just look at them, bugs are going to love those. They just look tasty, So bugs are going to be mowing those down, right? So you got to put tons of shit on those ones. So either skip those things. If you don't have money, the best thing to do would be to skip all those sweet things with thin skins, like grapes, raspberries. Just skip them. You don't need them. That's the thing. In the end, there is fructose. It's different because it has fiber. But fruits are not as important as you think for your health. It's basically vegetables and then protein sources. And nuts and berries, or nuts and seeds. So that's basically what you need. So Americans, they think they need like this much fruit and every day and then this much vegetables. Like you really don't even need any fruit. It tastes good, but it's not a big deal. Eat spinach, garlic, clams, anchovies, liver, these things are packed with good shit, right? They're just packed with good shit. Yeah, you can, apparently you can survive on, clams, like eating only clams for like many years even, because there's so much stuff in there. Like liver, yeah, you don't even need anything else. Some of these things are so packed with stuff that, they're not called superfoods. They're not blueberries. I like blueberries. I grew up on blueberries. But after I really researched it, I found out it's like they're not that great. If you want to get the purple from the blueberries, then you just get beets. And you can get those 5 for $1. And they have the same shit in them. That's why your mouth turns purple. It's the exact same stuff as blueberries. So you have to kind of think. And also, beets don't have much naturally. They don't have any, or underground, they don't have hardly any pesticides. And they're cheaper, and they're bigger, and they store easier, and they're not full of sugar. They have some sugar, but not like, blueberries, right? And blueberries, like, they fucking get bad in like 2 days. You got to eat them so fast, right? So I think inconvenience, price, logic, in a perfect world, if I get super rich, I want to have a private chef, that can make Japanese food, Indian food, and knows health food, and is like constantly experimenting with stuff. Like in the house in Pattaya that I want to have for the GHQ for Ronin, I want to have like, I'd love to have a chef at some point that we could teach these things so they would know all these things and cook. And also they would watch our meals over the days so they give a balance over the week and month, right? Not just in the meal, over your life, right? So then they could do the hard work and stuff. But right now, I got to do it myself. So I just do it, as fast and as efficient as possible, right? So I try to think of things that are just super easy. Like you can just take a pumpkin, like a kabocha, a Japanese kabocha, and just throw it in the oven as it is. Set it on 400, and then just it'll all cook. And it's absolutely wonderful, right? Food. So I think of things like that, that are super simple. And pesticides, if in doubt, I would say eat pesticides. Like if you're in a hurry. Okay, let me give an example. So we're out today, Trader Joe's, and let's say I was feeling like I need some greens. And then I saw spinach. Now I know it's covered in pesticides because it's thin. It's probably got a lot of pesticides. And, bugs are going to eat spinach. So I'm like, okay, they probably let us. But spinach is also very fucking good, right? Very good for you. So what I would do is I would just rinse it off as much as I can and eat it. Because if you avoid food because you're afraid of the pesticides, it's like people that don't drink water because they're afraid of the contaminants. They're permanently dehydrated. Your piss should be clear. When you piss, it should not be yellow. If it's yellow, you're dehydrated. That's very, very bad. So there's a lot of things in your life. So don't get too fixated on one thing. Just one by one, just learn things, incorporate them, and don't get too scared by stuff. And like, I've just found most other people to be not very good sources of information. So I have to think them through, right? Like that organic and pesticide thing. I thought that through myself. And I thought, I bet I can figure out which ones I need to get organic and I don't. And then I realized it. A lot of the ones I needed, I didn't even need to eat them, right? So, like cabbage probably doesn't have much pesticides, I'm guessing. I don't know. You could definitely take some of the layers off if you're worried about it, instead of getting the more expensive one. There's like hacks you can do. So for example, when they can food, they put that, what's that?
That preservative in here?
What is that thing they put in cans? They put it on the side of the inside.
The plastic. The plastic.
Yeah, BPA. So, like, just you want to just think of hacks that will keep you away from bad things. So I'll buy cans, but I'll only buy cans of things I can clean. So, for example, I won't buy refried beans because how are you going to clean refried beans? Impossible. But if you buy beans and then you pour all the water out and then you rinse it out, and then the beans, I think most of it's probably gone. Some things you'll never know unless you own a laboratory, and we never will. So you do have to go on. You have to be able to be decisive, intelligent, and make compromises and try to make the best decision, King Midas, all the time. So I'll eat beans. Beans are really good for you. So I'll eat beans and I'll rinse them off. But I will never eat refried beans because I know that BHP, what is it called?
BPA.
Oh,
BPA. That BPA shit's pretty bad. So I won't. I'll get anchovies and I'll rinse them off. And that gets rid of the salt, MSG, oil, coloring, everything, or most of it, right? There's a type of person that gets too paranoid. And then they often are unhealthy, which is funny. Yeah. They're often like, I look at them, I have friends who spend like insane money on food. And I pretty sure I'm healthier than them. I definitely look healthier than them. So you can beat the system, a little Roundup here or there, you could, but if you don't have a yard, you don't really need it, And if you eat like real food, you will find yourself less and less. I guess I'll end on this. The thing that I said this before in Arona, but it's so fucking true. I thought about it. nobody cares about anything they can't see, right? So, for example, if a Chinese factory, here's what they do. Chinese food factory, they'll get the shittiest vegetables, the cheapest the most pesticides grown in the most, next to a chemical plant with a runoff water going in the ground. Just the worst there used to be like a mining facility 100 years ago there. Like the worst dirt, and they'll take that food and then they'll grind it up and they'll throw it in a burn it up, and it'll become a can of soup. And then you'll buy it and drink it. But you won't eat a spinach with Roundup. Because your mind, the way the humans are, we're flawed people. We're flawed. You have to beat yourself to beat some things. Because the spinach you can see, and you know it's right there, and the poison is right there on the top, and it's stuck in there, and it bothers you, right? So I'm not going to eat that spinach. But then a can of soup, whatever, it's probably fine, right? It's like, and meanwhile, the people at those factories, they care a lot less about your health than you do, right? So they just throw any kind of shit they want in there, right? But as long as it's cooked up, mixed up, spun up, zipped up, you drink it and eat it. There's a lot of people like that. It's crazy. You talk to them. They'll be eating shit from Chinese factories, and it's like processed foods from Chinese factories. That's like the worst combo. Like that's just utter stupidity, to be eating that. Like really. Ask anybody who worked in a Chinese factory. This ain't racist. Call people in China who work at factories. Ask them what they think. They'll tell you. Like a lot of factories are scary. You ever read, remember the book, Upton Sinclair's book? The Jungle, yeah. His book was in the 1900s, and it was about sausages, the rotten meat and the cockroaches and everything that was going in the sausages. But as long as it ends up looking like a sausage, and then you boil it up and it tastes like a sausage, and you feel fine, right? Because you just write it all off. That's another reason why you don't want processed foods, is because of your mind as a human is fucked on these things. Because you can't see it, so you don't care. But I recommend seeing everything. Like only eat things that you know what they are. That's a walnut. I can see it, right? That's a cashew. That's a cabbage. That's a watermelon. And people will say, oh, that is like people will say, oh, eggplants are like plants of the night, and they cause you in the winter to be cold or something. Like just to save time, just ignore all this. Because that's the problem. The problem with health is there's so much weird information out there that can get kind of fascinating to think about it all, right? But just focus on the simple, the simple stuff, But anything else?
What do you think of like the Impossible Burgers and like fake meat?
Oh, it's the fucking worst. Yeah. Oh God, this is the worst fucking shit. Okay, these guys. It's so funny because these vegetarians and vegans, they think they're the most healthy. But do you know any vegans' health, friends? A lot of vegans are very unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And most vegetarians don't even eat vegetables. Yeah, they don't. They eat like bread and donuts, Like I live in a house with all these vegetarians. And they always come up to me and they're like, you eat way more vegetables than we do. You're not a vegetarian. And I'm like, yeah, vegetables are good for you. They lie that they're vegetarian. They don't eat vegetables. I eat vegetables. I eat a couple pounds a day. I eat a lot of vegetables. They're great. Yeah, eat vegetables, But we were just talking about
Impossible Burgers and stuff.
Oh, Impossible. So Impossible Burgers, basically, you have a choice of a real food, meat. A real food. No matter what you think about it, or maybe it's good or bad, but for your health, it's real food. And then you have a bunch of stuff processed in blenders, food coloring, preservatives, because you have to put preservatives. As soon as you take the fiber out and process something, it's just fucked. You're putting preservatives in there. You're putting all kinds of chemicals, colorings, things to stabilize it. You got to stick it together, right? You got to make it stick, because meat just sticks naturally, because it's got the fat, and that just everything just kind of works there, right? But this one, there's nothing working. They're trying to make it work, so I remember I was at a vegetarian restaurant in China, and they said it was the best in China. So I went there, and everything looked like meat, you know. And I thought, that's amazing. So I was really fascinated the first time. I thought, this is great. Because I had plenty of money at the time, and I was like, I'm going to eat here more often. And like, this is like healthy, right? I went back the second time, and I looked at it, and I thought, what the fuck is this? Like, what is in this, really? Like, why are they making, like, anything that's made, one rule is never eat anything that's made to look like anything else, ever. Because that's processed to the maximum degree. So if you're going to eat vegetables, it's great to be a vegetarian. You look in your fridge, there should just be cabbage, garlic, onions, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Nuts, seeds. There should be everything in your fridge as a vegetarian. You should be able to point it out. A 5-year-old should be able to name everything in there. They might not know the varieties of this or that, broccoli or whatever, but they're going to know it's broccoli, right? They're going to know it should be food, right? The problem with people now is they eat for politics and social status and to prove things to other people, and they don't realize that their body, it needs, like, they're so lost. People are so lost today. It's like they're doing everything for other people or to prove something, or they're grinding axes. That's the thing, is I don't have any axes to grind. I just like the truth, you know. So, you know, just if you're gonna vegetarian, like, just only eat vegetables. Yeah, just have vegetables all the time. Yeah, find ways to make them tasty. It's not easy, and that's the one problem with being limiting your diet is it's hard to make tasty food all the time, because especially as you get older, it's harder. Your taste buds are not as. That's why they're not as sensitive. You can see them; they can eat hot sauce, and kids can't, right? And so it gets harder. And as you get older, you don't absorb, like I said, so it's harder to eat. So you have a lot of skinny, unhealthy people who are malnourished essentially and dehydrated. But they're doing the right thing, you know. I mean, you know, I think with any of those burgers, I mean, nothing against that company, but you just think, where did this grow, this burger? What plant did this burger come from? You know what I mean? If you can't answer that question, it's processed garbage. You know, don't eat that. Much better to eat a real food, you know. Like, people talk bad about soybeans and everything and soy boys and this and that. I haven't done a lot of research, but generally beans are pretty good for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get up and eat a bunch of soy, but a lot of people, even in our groups, they just talk a lot of shit and don't think a lot. You know, just do some thinking, reevaluate things, you know. Is this really true? Who told me this? What facts do I have for this? Like, for a long time, I thought bananas were great, you know. But then I watched a doctor, and he's like, these are bullshit. There's like almost nothing in these. And like he said, he went through what's in there, you know. I was like, no fucking way. I always thought I just assumed bananas were great. There's a lot of things that you'd be surprised by. So there's always more to learn, right? Yeah, there's always more to learn. But yeah, this whole thing now where things look like other things, it's terrifying, you know. It's terrifying. It's a wrong road. And for anybody who's like vegetarian or vegan, like, you guys of all people should be eating vegetables. You know, it's like, but it takes time to cook, you know, and it's like, sometimes it's not that tasty, you know. So it's difficult to get something without putting sugar, sweet something on it, or, you know, without grinding a blender and just forcing it down, right? So you have to find a way to make something, because tasty food, yeah, I'll end on this. Tasty food is important in my mind, because I think if you, because I'm a very efficient person, like, not as much as Sean, but I'm pretty efficient with things. He's really extreme on the efficiency. It's amazing, actually. But for me, I'm pretty efficient, pretty darn efficient. So I'll have things organized for food. But I realize that if I eat the same thing all the time, I get to where I can't eat it. And so your body is, again, it's an imperfect. I mean, if we could have bodies like robots, it'd be great. But they're not, right? So what'll happen to most people is they will try to do the impossible, eat foods that don't taste good for too long. And then what do? They can't keep it up, right? I want you to do things that you can do for the rest of your life, from today to forever. It's just you make a decision, you don't have to ever go back. It's like that part of your life is just done. You don't need process. You know what I mean? Unless you, of course, if you have to, if you're out, sometimes you do have to. But I mean, for yourself, you're never doing it on purpose. I might sleep in a room with a guy smoking once, and I have, but I don't want to, right? Because I know it's not good, right? So I'm not saying it's a perfect world, but I mean, generally, 99% of the time, right? So yeah, so the problem with food that doesn't taste good, in my opinion, I never heard anybody say this, but I think you gotta love to eat, pussy and everything, Like you gotta love to eat, man. It's like your energy. I think when you're young, you're voracious and hungry, and you don't know. As you get older, you won't be as hungry. You won't be as voracious. So you have to kind of like baby your body and nurture it. Keep the mitochondria healthy so that it has the energy to do the things you need, and then also make it appealing enough that you want to eat it. So I'm always kind of experimenting with different things that I think can make it taste good. And sometimes, like, what did I do recently? I did something. I can do it in videos as we make foods, but you can do some pretty crazy things that no one's ever done. Like some of the things I do, like nobody does. But I realize that this thing's too dry and I need something wet. So I'll find something else that's healthy and wet and just mix it in there. And then it's edible, And I just can't do it, So don't try to do the impossible because you'll give up, Or even worse, you'll become that old man that's just kind of low energy. You just kind of, who is the guy with low energy? Jeb Bush. You'll be Jeb Bush, just low energy, You don't want to be that. You want to be just like fuck yeah. You're like 75. Really, you're still exercising, because to win the game of life, it's so many subtle things you got to do right, and it's fun to think about in my mind, It's not like winning. It's just like, it's fun. It's fucking fun. Yeah. Fuck 'em, All right, I'll end on that. All right.